The Psyche of Success, the video blog that helps you reach the next level. Education, entertainment, and motivation to help you and your team succeed in business and in life. Subscribe, share, and learn. Welcome to the Psyche of Success with your host, Jody Holland.
Hey guys, welcome to the Psyche of Success podcast. Very excited about today's guest, Michelle Prince. She's a best-selling author of her first book, Winning in Life Now, a highly sought-after Zig Ziglar motivational speaker. She's gone on to author dozens of additional books, products, and other areas. She is great at motivating, connecting, helping people be productive. In fact, she's actually known as America's productivity coach. You would be amazed at what this woman has done. I was reading through all of her bio: publishing company, author, creator of programs, a legacy speaker for Zig Ziglar, and an ambassador for the Ziglar brand. She has done just about everything. So super excited to have you on here. I always give my guests a chance to add anything I might have missed. So Michelle, what did I miss?
Thanks, Jody. Well, I'm happy to be here. Well, I'm a mom of two teenage boys and a wife of a husband for about 23 years now. So I think that takes priority over everything else. But no, I'm just grateful that I get to do what I do. It's a passion of mine, and you know, I get to do this every day, which is such an incredible, I'm so fortunate.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've always been a huge fan of Zig Ziglar. He was, when I first went into business back in 99, I went to one of his goal setting programs and then bought, I think, almost all of his audio programs that he had available and went to Automobile University. But it,
Love
it, it was very, very helpful. And I agree with one of the things you said is the first definition of who we are is based on who we are, not just in our working life, but also in our personal lives. And you talk a lot about work-life balance, and it's not a juggling act, but it's a balancing act. I, I know I'm going off script just a little bit here, but I'd love it if you'd expand on that just a little bit, because I know my listeners struggle with that.
Oh, for sure. I didn't get into helping people with productivity and time management because I had this all mastered. It was the opposite. I was a working mom of two boys. When I started my business 10 years ago, I had two boys in elementary school. And, I was trying to balance the whole work-life thing. And I just made it was very important to me, and it still is today, to set boundaries where there's just certain things that are non-negotiable. My evenings, my weekends, my time with my kids and my husband are super, super important, but you can still be extremely productive and successful more you really manage it. But it's not always going to be juggling, and it's not just doing everything. It's just getting really specific and get that clarity on, what do you want to accomplish in the important areas of life, like your personal life, your finances, your career, your spiritual life, your health, your personal life. All that stuff is who you are. And it starts with that clarity, but nobody has it totally perfect, and we're not all balanced perfectly. There's
Yeah.
seasons for everything.
Well, yeah. So you think about that. That's a good start into their first question about what your definition of success is. So obviously, a big part of the definition is balance and knowing what your non-negotiables, where your boundaries are. What else would you put into your definition of being successful?
I think, and I love that you asked that, Jody, because I ask this as well when I speak, because it is super important. Because if you don't really know your definition of success, then you're going to end up just going down paths that, may not be fulfilling. My definition is a couple things. One, that I'm doing something, that I'm using the gifts and the talents that and that they're being used to make a difference, to help somebody, even in a small way. You don't have to be an author and a speaker to make a difference. But also, I want to have some sort of a legacy for my kids, my grandkids someday, that they know what we stand for, they know what's important in life. And I'm not afraid of being successful. Some people say, like, well, it's not all about money, and it's certainly not. But I learned this from Zig, that the more money you make, the more people you can help. So success is also the ability to have the means to help a lot of people.
Right. And I think ultimately it is our responsibility, like you said, to use those gifts and talents that we've been given and then to cultivate that potential, because like you said, the more successful you are, the more capable you are of helping others. And so, in a way, it's our responsibility to be as successful as we can possibly be so that we can do as much good as we can possibly do.
Totally. And if we're too busy being busy, then it's really hard to do all that we're supposed to be doing.
So, and I love that was one of your book titles that I was looking at. Are you busy being busy and not getting things done? So, I can't tell you how many people that have said, you go ask them, well, how you doing? They're like, I'm busy. And I think that's become our new find is, oh, I'm just busy, but I don't know that they're being productive.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious because that's the exact reason why that title came about. I was writing the book and I didn't have the title quite yet. And they're like, well, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing with it. And I said, look, everywhere I go, everyone I talk to, whether they're CEO of a huge company, a stay-at-home mom, or even a college student, the answer is always the same when you ask how you're doing. And that's, I'm busy. I'm so busy. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. This is going on. And I'm so guilty of it myself.
Yeah.
And so I kind of jokingly said, oh my gosh, we're all so busy, just busy. Because I knew we're not accomplishing their goals. They weren't getting the things done that mattered. And so that was how that title was birthed.
It's awesome. I love the title. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
So you've obviously had some great mentors in your life, especially from the business side of things, but who would be one of the mentors that you really have looked up to? And what's a lesson that you've learned from that mentor that has helped you in business?
Well, I know I talk a lot about Zig Ziglar, but it's not just because I loved what he taught. He was a huge influence on me. I met him at 18 when I was just out of high school. My parents sent me to his seminar as my graduation gift from high school, and I was not thrilled about it. But I embraced personal development at that young age. And so I ended up working for him right out of college. And that was such a huge foundational part for me, not just from a career standpoint. And so he was a huge influence on me, professionally, spiritually. I'm, still very, very close with the family. And obviously we are all working to do whatever we can to keep the legacy of Zig Ziglar alive. But that's the first person I think of.
Yeah.
I had other mentors in other parts of my, I think there's seasons of our life, right?
Yeah.
Where we're working with different people or learning from different people, but he's been the one consistent thread throughout my whole life.
That's awesome. Yeah. And he is his legacy, I think, will live on forever, but he was such an incredible guy and that he truly just cared about people. And, I didn't get to meet him and get into personal development as young as you did, which I'm jealous. I fell in love with personal development about 27 years old when, um, I went into business. I'm thinking, man, how much further could I have been if I'd have learned some of those things? Like, you can be anybody you want to be as long as you do what you're supposed to do, and then you can have what you want to have. And,
Exactly.
that was like such a mind-blowingly simple and yet profound lesson that was the thread through a lot of what he taught. And I have used that for my entire life. You got to be before you can do anything else. And that goes to one of the courses that you talk about is the power of belief that I saw on your website. And that being who you're supposed to be, I think is that core of belief. So is that kind of where that came from?
Yeah, where originally that came from was my own negative limiting beliefs. For years, after I left Ziglar, I worked there right out of college, but I quit to go pursue software sales, go make more money, climb a corporate ladder, thought that would make me happy.
Yeah.
13 years later, I wake up and I'm like, what just happened? And I was miserable, but I didn't have a lot of belief that I could do what I wanted to do. I always wanted to motivate people and inspire people. I didn't know how to do it. And so I just was stuck in that negative belief for a long, long time. And then I had a shift in my beliefs. One of the things I always wanted to do was write a book, but I literally would say to myself, who do you think you are? You're no Zig Ziglar. That was the one downside of working for him. I was comparing myself, well, oh my gosh, who do I think I am to do something like this? But then I had a shift it was about 11 years ago. And I thought, you know what? Why not me? I have a heart to help people. And if the only people that ever read this book are my two boys, my husband, my parents, I'm good. And that one shift in my belief changed everything, first of all. But it's amazing to think like I was the exact same person, the day before I wrote my book. The only thing that changed was I just happened to believe now I could do it. I could have done it a lot earlier, probably, but I didn't.
Yeah, and the first book that I wrote was a book called My Judo Life, and I think I wrote the introduction in chapter 1 about 50 times, and kind of that same thing, like, if do you really think people want to hear what you have to say? And so, you learn to deal with those limiting beliefs. But for me, it was I had a friend named Elaine Hand that he just finally said, "Look, you're an author or you're not an author. Which one is it?" And I needed that push where I'm like, you know what? I'm an author.
That's right. And we all have a story, right? I mean, you've written what, 16 books, I think?
Yeah.
So not everybody has 16 in them, but maybe they do. But at least everyone has at least one.
Hmm.
And as you know firsthand, when you put your story out there, that's when you can make an impact.
And you're right. I mean, the authority that we have really does come from people's perception of who we are and what we've done. And just having that book, it was amazing what a difference that made as far as getting, keynote speeches or doing training for companies. Like, oh, you've written a book. And then when you write a few books, they're like, holy cow, that guy's written a lot of books. 3 is a lot. So when you get a 2 or 3 books out there, all of a sudden people do give you a different level of respect. And then I've done a lot of what you've done where you write the book and you turn it into a course because people want to go even deeper than what they'll get just from the book. And I think that's truly beneficial to people. Plus it really makes a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's the same message. That's a lot of what I teach when I have some seminars and some other books I've written all about that. Or it is what's going to get you that authority status. And if you're looking for ways to have multiple revenue streams, I mean, a book is one of the best ways to do it because now you've got that core message that you
Mhm.
can put in a book, you can put in a podcast, you could put on a speaking stage, in a coaching program, you name it. It's all
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, and I started figuring out I was a little slow on this, but about a year ago, I thought, why don't I just do speeches based on my books? And so I essentially teach a summary of the book in a speech and do those as keynote speeches. And it's gone over incredibly well. And it really helps for the sales on the book based on that.
Yeah, because everything you're teaching, on page 20, I talk about da 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 da. And oh, by the way, how many of you would like to have this book when you leave? And
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Hold that copy up. You've got that instant marketing right there. So all of us still stress out about things. What are some of the things or one of the things that keeps you up at night that you're like, oh, if I could figure this out, business would be so much better or life would be so much better?
Oh, goodness. Well, as an entrepreneur, you probably can relate to this. I mean, there's so many ups and downs in owning a business, right? I thought I saw the perfect analogy. I think I saw it on Facebook, but it was a roller coaster ride. And it was like one day you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm doing great. The next day, this isn't working. I'm failing. The next day, oh, I haven't, look how much money I'm making. The next day, I'm broke. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. So, what keeps me up at night is figuring out how to keep some of those things a little bit more even. But what I found is, and this is also what I share with some of my coaching clients is you never get to, I mean, it's never a straight line where you're going if you're building a business. And there's these plateaus where it's like, okay, this for my own business, this is how I saw it. First 5 years was like grow, go, 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 growing, 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 growing. And then at about year 5, I kind of hit a plateau
Yeah.
where it was like, okay, it's working. All of a sudden my eyes were open like, oh my gosh, this could be so much bigger. And then the next stress of like, okay, now I've got to 10x it. Now I've got to multiply it. And so having a publishing business, that has really been what keeps me up at night is I have an opportunity to help people to tell their stories. And I know their stories will make a difference. So if I don't get to as many people as possible, how many people are going to go, without telling their story, or how many people won't benefit? So it's a struggle. And, I love to present. I love to speak into people. I love all of that. I'm not a lover of marketing as much, but I have learned that. And so those tactics and things, those keep me up at night. Am I doing everything I can be doing?
Yeah, and there's two things that really stood out in your answer there to me. One, and I think that every entrepreneur I've ever met in my entire life struggles with, but what's next?
Yeah.
And so it's that and then kind of deal. I had my first completely sold out event this year, and I I'm sitting around at dinner that right after that, and I go, well, how am I going to do that again? And so you worry about the dumbest things. I'm like, I should be celebrating. I just made a lot of money in one day, did a great program on, how to be a good supervisor. Had lots of people go, oh my gosh, when's the next one? We have more people. And I'm stressing, can I do it again?
Yeah.
So it's just, I think that's what we do. And then you said the other thing that you said is you're not necessarily a lover of marketing, but you've learned the tactics and strategies. And I think that's a lot of us is, you have a voice, you want to go speak on stage, you have a great publishing company, you want to help as many people as possible. We learned marketing even though we weren't marketers.
Right.
And a lot of what you've done and the same strategy that I followed is that expert or authority marketing where you just go out and you create a brand based on expertise and helping people with the idea that people will pursue you. And it's
Mhm.
possibly a longer road to get there, but man, it's fulfilling because now you have people tracking you down going, oh my gosh, I'd love for you to be on our stage.
Yes. It's amazing how it works. Now you have to, I always tell people though, it's not just, write a book and expect that to happen. There has to be, a passion behind it, right?
Right.
I joke, but I say, be careful what you write about because you're going to be talking about it for a long, 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 long time. So make sure you have that passion. But when the passion is there, that's the momentum that keeps us doing the things that maybe we don't love to do, but
Yeah.
we know we have to. I heard once somebody say, it's been years now, I forget who said it, but that basically we're not in the business of whatever we do, right? I'm not in the publishing business. I'm not in the speaking business. We're in the marketing business.
Hmm.
And we just happen to market speaking and coaching and seminars and things like that. But it's a shift, and it's not just about loving what you do. You got to also have some strategies in place to make it happen.
Yeah. And that's the tough part is people getting to the strategy. You got to keep your state right. And that going back to one of the Zig Ziglar quotes, I remember him on stage in Lubbock saying, if you bathe every day, and we're like, yeah, everybody bathes every day. Well, your attitude's the same way. You got to get up and clean it up and get out there. You wouldn't quit bathing just because it wore off after a day or two. You keep that motivation going. We're like, that actually makes perfect sense. You got to clean up your attitude just the same way you clean up your body.
That's right. Every day, and being around people, listening to podcasts like this, and just filling your mind with other successful people. I feel like that is the key, because as entrepreneurs, we are so isolated sometimes that if we're not surrounding ourselves with the right people, it gets tough. And that's where I do see a lot of entrepreneurs fail,
Yep,
because they don't see the need in having that network.
absolutely. So that's good advice in and of itself. The kind of the last question, then I'm going to open it up for a couple other little discussions. But if you were thinking about advice that you would want to give to an up and coming entrepreneur, what would be your advice about the psychology of success or the tactics and strategies of success?
Great question. I would first challenge them to really, I'd start with mindset, because everything can be learned with growing a business. But if you don't have the belief system yet, and you don't have the mindset to get through those valleys we were just talking about, it's going to be really, really, really tough. So starting with your mindset, starting with belief. I also encourage, I work and meet with a lot of people that are in a corporate job, or, they want to leave to go start their business.
Yeah.
I always encourage them, don't jump and expect everything to happen. Build that foundation. Really take the time to work on your mindset and figuring out what you want to do. But then, you nowadays we have so much time. You can work from home. You can do things in the evenings, on weekends. But build your business while you still have a little bit of a safety net, because otherwise, it's you become desperate
Yeah.
if you don't have any income. And I did not jump immediately after I wrote my book. In fact, I was still working in software for at least another year or so after, and this is after I'm out speaking and I'm coaching and I'm doing this, but on the weekends.
Yeah.
Because I needed that base to not be stressed about money. So that's my other piece of advice. Do it, but have a plan and don't jump immediately.
Right. Yeah. And I completely respect that and wish I would have done it that way. And that's the advice. Part of the advice that I give to people now is have an actual plan. I worked for a consulting firm and I quit my job and then went, okay, let's go do something. But I had no idea what I was going to do. And so there's a lot of stress and very little money in starting it that way. And I had to scramble really, really hard just to keep up. So great advice. I love that.
And it
advice.
can be done, like you just said. It doesn't happen overnight, as you know.
Oh, no, it does not. In fact, some of the best advice I got, and it was about a month into business, this guy goes, you just need to be rejected more. I'm like, I think I'm crushing it on the rejection. And he goes, no, seriously. 30 different people need to tell you no in the next 30 days. And I made it a point to try to be rejected 30 times in 30 days. And I sold 10 grand in training that month. I'm like, holy cow, this rejection thing is awesome. And so I just kind of kept that philosophy that I got to get past enough of these no's to get to the yeses and stop taking the no's personal.
You know, that is awesome advice. It's interesting. I was in sales for so many years. And so I do recall one of my companies saying, for every 10 no's, you may get a yes. And so I do remember having that mindset of like, okay, going for the no. Easy to do when you're working for someone else. Not as easy to do when it's your own business, right? And especially if you've just left your income. But I love that because it probably, I'm guessing the reason they suggested that is it made you more creative as far as ways.
Well, and it took the pressure off because you think about it, like it's easy to get a no. I can go screw everything up and get a no. There's no pressure to get it all right. So you do get that creativity and that flow to just go, all right, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't actually get to 30 no's. I tried like heck, but I kept getting told yes. So
That's awesome.
I'm like, I'll take that too, I guess. If people wanted to hire you as a keynote speaker or get more information about you, what would they need to do in order to get connected with you and to bring you in to speak at their conference or do training for them or just help them in another way?
Well, sure. You can always go to the website, michelleprince.com, or email us at support@michelleprince.com and talk about the event, talk about what you're looking for, and see if we're fit. And I would love to support any of your listeners, Jody.
That's awesome. And kind of the way we got connected, I'm not sure if you know, but Jennifer had reached out because I do a conference every February called the Growth Conference. And we bring in 7 different speakers plus me every year. We do TED Talk style, like 20 to 25-minute talks. Have a couple hundred people that show up every year just to go to the conference. But she had reached out about that, and I had already got my speaker list lined up, but I thought, man, she sounds really intriguing. And I kind of looked at your website at that point. So hopefully we can figure out how to get you here for the 2021 conference, get you as one of our speakers.
Absolutely. And it's here in Texas, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a Texas girl, so I'm there.
Makes it even easier. So, well, fantastic. Well, Michelle, thank you so much. For all the listeners out there, I'm going to have in the show notes how you can get a hold of Michelle if you want to get more information. Strongly encourage you to take a look at her books and her programs. I know I'm going to be taking a look specifically at the one about being busy, but not necessarily getting the productivity that I want. So I encourage you guys to take a look at that, look at more information, and definitely go out there and listen to what she has to say. She's got a podcast coming up. So make sure that as soon as that's out there, you subscribe to that. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being on the podcast today. You have been fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Jody. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to The Psyche of Success. Give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, share with your friends, take out billboards about how much you love us if you want, but just make sure to apply the lessons learned and live fully into your potential. We'll see you next week for another episode of The Psyche of Success.